The unwelcome ambassador. The massive Galactic Council station hung in space like an ornate metal flower, its petal-shaped sections spread wide to catch the light of the nearby binary stars. Approaching in the small Earth diplomatic shuttle, Ambassador Alexander Volkov observed the structure with the calculating eyes of someone who had seen too many battlefields to be impressed by mere grandeur. "We'll be docking in 5 minutes, Ambassador," called the pilot from the cockpit. "Council security has cleared our approach vector." Alexander nodded silently, his weathered face revealing nothing of his thoughts. At 57, his once coal-black hair had turned steel gray, matching the color of his eyes. The formal diplomatic uniform felt strange against his skin after decades in military gear. The small Earth emblem pinned to his lapel was the only ornamentation on his otherwise austere appearance. "Still don't know why they chose me for this," he muttered to Dr. Elena Petrov, the actual diplomatic expert seated across from him. "I'm a soldier, not a talker." Elena smiled thinly. "That's precisely why, Ambassador. After what happened to our previous 3 representatives, the United Earth government needed someone the aliens would think twice about threatening." Alexander grunted. The disappearance of 3 consecutive Earth ambassadors over the past 18 months had strained relations with the Galactic Council to the breaking point. Humanity, as the newest member species of the Council, already faced significant prejudice from the older spacefaring races. The missing diplomats had only made things worse. "I'm just the muscle, then," he said. "You're the consequence," Elena corrected. "And you're also an accomplished strategist and veteran of multiple conflicts. Your reputation." "My reputation is classified." Alexander cut her off sharply. "Let's keep it that way." Elena fell silent, knowing better than to mention what was widely whispered throughout Earth's military circles, that seated before her was the man they called the Baba Yaga, the legendary commander who had single-handedly turned the tide during the Battle of Titan 15 years ago. The official records had been sealed, but the stories persisted. The shuttle shuddered slightly as it connected with the docking port. Alexander stood, straightening his uniform with practiced precision. "Remember the protocols," Elena said quietly as the airlock began to cycle. "The 7 elder races sit on the inner circle. The Draxians have been particularly hostile toward humans lately. They're the tall ones with the bony crests. The Vrel are generally neutral, the gaseous ones in containment suits. And whatever you do, don't make direct eye contact with." "I studied the briefing materials," Alexander interrupted. "Let's get this over with." The airlock opened to reveal 2 council security officers waiting, a hulking growth with iridescent scales and a slender, multi-limbed Ithrak. Both wore the formal silver uniforms of the Council Guard. "Ambassador Volkov of Earth," the growth rumbled through its translator. "Your presence is required immediately in the council chamber. The session has already begun." Alexander raised an eyebrow. The session wasn't scheduled to begin for another 3 hours. The schedule was adjusted, the Ithrak said, its voice clicking through the translator. Recent developments required immediate attention. Elena stepped forward. "What developments?" "We received no notification. Your companion will be escorted to human quarters." The Groth interrupted. "Only the ambassador is required." Alexander exchanged a glance with Elena. This deviation from protocol wasn't just rude, it was suspicious. "Dr. Petrov is my senior diplomatic advisor," Alexander said firmly. "She accompanies me to all official functions as per Earth's agreement with the Council." The security officers hesitated, their body language suggesting they were receiving new instructions through their communication devices. "Very well," the Groth finally conceded. "Follow us. Quickly." As they walked through the gleaming corridors of the station, Alexander noted the unusual absence of other diplomatic personnel. The station seemed unnaturally quiet, except for increased security presence. Elena noticed it too, her professional demeanor unable to hide her growing concern. "Something's wrong," she whispered to Alexander, careful to keep her voice below what alien translators might pick up. "Stay alert," he replied softly. "If anything happens to me." "Nothing's going to happen to you," she interrupted. "That's the whole point of sending the Baba Yaga." Alexander's face hardened at the name, but he said nothing more as they approached the massive doors to the council chamber. Even before they entered, he could hear the raised voices of multiple species engaged in heated debate. The chamber was a vast amphitheater with concentric rings of seating, each ring representing different tiers of council membership. The 7 elder race representatives occupied the central platform, while newer member species were arranged in the outer rings according to their seniority. Earth's position, as the newest member, was in the outermost ring. When Alexander and Elena entered, an immediate hush fell over the chamber. Hundreds of alien eyes, sensory organs, and scanning apparatuses turned toward them. "The human representative arrives," announced Draxian High Chancellor Vor, his bony crest flushing a deep crimson, a sign of aggression in his species, "finally deigning to join us as we discuss the crimes of your kind." Alexander kept his face impassive as he and Elena were escorted to Earth's designated position in the chamber. He noted the absence of any other human representatives, unusual for a full council session where typically multiple advisors would be present. "High Chancellor," Elena began formally, "we were informed the session would begin 3 hours from now. We came as soon as we were notified of the change." "Convenient excuses," hissed another member of the inner circle, a chelled representative whose gelatinous body pulsed with each word, "as humanity has offered for each transgression." Alexander stepped forward. "As Earth's representative, I formally request to know what accusations are being made against my species." Chancellor Vor's upper limbs spread wide in a gesture of dominance. "The evidence has already been presented and reviewed. Human. Your absence during that presentation does not invalidate the proceedings." From the second ring, a Vrel representative's containment suit glowed a soft blue. "Perhaps we should summarize the findings for the human ambassador. It seems only fair." "Fair is a human concept with no place in council law," Vor snapped, but was overruled when 4 of the 7 inner circle members indicated agreement with the Vrel's suggestion. "Very well," Vor said with obvious displeasure. "The Council has discovered evidence that humans have been systematically violating territorial boundaries in the Palvan sector, establishing illegal mining operations, and most seriously, developing weapons technologies explicitly forbidden by Council treaty." "That's absurd," Elena said. "Earth has strictly adhered to all territorial agreements and technology protocols." "The evidence suggests otherwise," said the Chelb representative. A holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber, showing what appeared to be human military vessels in a region of space Alexander recognized as the Palvan sector, deep within Draxian territory. The images shifted to show mining installations on several asteroids, then what appeared to be weapons testing facilities. "These facilities were discovered 2 solar cycles ago," Vor continued. "When confronted, the humans operating them attacked Council peacekeeping forces, resulting in casualties." Alexander studied the images carefully. "Those aren't Earth ships," he said firmly. "The configuration is wrong, and those installations don't match any human design protocols." "More convenient denials," Vor dismissed. "We expected nothing less from a species known for deception." Murmurs spread through the chamber, mostly hostile toward the human representatives. "The Council has already voted," Vor announced with obvious satisfaction. "Earth's membership is hereby suspended pending a full investigation. All human vessels are restricted to Earth's solar system until further notice. Any human ships found outside these boundaries will be considered hostile and dealt with accordingly." Alexander felt a cold fury building inside him. The evidence was clearly fabricated, the session deliberately scheduled to prevent Earth's full participation, and the punishment decided before they'd even arrived. This wasn't justice. It was a coordinated effort to isolate humanity. "Chancellor Vor," Alexander said, his voice perfectly controlled despite his anger, "Earth rejects these accusations and the Council's ruling. We demand an independent investigation with full human participation. Laughter, or various species equivalents, echoed through the chamber. The human makes demands, mocked a Draxian representative from the second ring. Tell us, Ambassador, what military force does Earth possess to back these demands? Your species is barely a century into space travel. Your technology is primitive, your fleet's tiny, your colonies few. More laughter followed. And they send us this aging human to represent them, Vor added with contempt. A diplomatic nobody pulled from obscurity, because no one of significance would take the position after what happened to your predecessors. Alexander remained perfectly still, his face betraying nothing, but Alina could sense the dangerous shift in his demeanor. I recommend caution, Chancellor, she said quickly. Ambassador Volkov. Is nothing, Vor interrupted. Another human pretending at importance. A subtle change came over Alexander then. It wasn't visible in his expression or posture, but somehow the atmosphere in the chamber shifted. Several of the more instinctive species grew noticeably uncomfortable, sensing something their conscious minds couldn't identify. Chancellor Vor, Alexander said, his voice so quiet that the chamber fell silent as everyone strained to hear him. Before this proceeds further, I would like to know what happened to my predecessors. Vor's crest flattened slightly, a sign of surprise. Their disappearances are regrettable but unrelated to today's proceedings. Are they? Alexander asked. Because it seems to me that removing Earth's representatives would be a necessary first step to fabricating evidence against us. Gasps and angry outbursts erupted around the chamber. You accuse the Council of abducting your ambassadors. The Cheld representative demanded, its gelatinous body flushing dark with anger. I'm merely noting the convenience. Alexander replied calmly. 3 ambassadors disappear, then suddenly evidence appears of human violations that somehow went undetected until now. Vor slammed a limb down on his podium. Enough. The human representative will be removed from the chamber for this insult. Security personnel began moving toward Alexander and Alina. The situation was deteriorating rapidly. Before I'm removed, Alexander said, his voice carrying easily despite the commotion, I'd like to ask the Chancellor one question. He fixed his steel-gray eyes directly on Vor, breaking protocol by making direct eye contact with a Draxian. Do you know who I am? Vor's crest flattened completely in surprise at the human's audacity. You are nothing. A temporary placeholder for a species about to learn its proper place in the galaxy. A cold, dangerous smile touched Alexander's lips for the first time. No, Chancellor, I am the man you should have feared enough to treat fairly. As security surrounded them, Alina leaned close to Alexander. What are you doing? She whispered urgently. Getting answers, he replied softly as they were escorted from the chamber. They didn't schedule this session early by accident. This was planned, all of it. And I'm starting to think our missing ambassadors aren't missing at all. The doors of the council chamber closed behind them with ominous finality, leaving the human representatives in the custody of council security, surrounded by aliens who had just declared humanity's isolation from the galactic community. But what none of them realized was that they had just backed the most dangerous human alive into a corner. And the Baba Yaga was about to show them why that was a mistake they would deeply regret. The legend emerges. The detention level of the Galactic Council Station was designed to accommodate criminals from hundreds of different species. For Alexander Volkov, this meant a bare cell with atmosphere and gravity calibrated for humans. A small courtesy that did nothing to disguise the seriousness of his situation. Alina had been separated from him immediately after their removal from the council chamber, taken to what the guards described as diplomatic quarantine. Alexander knew better. This wasn't standard protocol. This was a coordinated effort to isolate Earth's representatives. Sitting motionless on the hard surface that passed for a bed, Alexander closed his eyes and slowed his breathing. To an observer, he might have appeared to be meditating or perhaps resigned to his fate. In reality, he was calculating, planning, preparing, just as he had done countless times on battlefields across the solar system. The door to his cell shimmered as a Draxian security officer appeared on the other side of the energy barrier. "Human," the Draxian said without preamble, "you will be questioned about your allegations against the Council." Alexander opened his eyes slowly. "Where is Dr. Petrov?" "The other human is not your concern. She is under diplomatic protection, according to Article 17 of Earth's membership agreement," Alexander said calmly. "I want verification of her safety and status." The Draxian's crest rippled with irritation. "You are in no position to make demands. Chancellor Vor wishes to speak with you privately." Alexander raised an eyebrow. "The Chancellor himself. I'm honored." "You should be afraid," the Draxian said. "Few face the Chancellor in private and return unchanged." A cold smile touched Alexander's lips. "I look forward to the meeting." 15 years earlier, the moons of Saturn had become humanity's first true interplanetary battleground. A separatist faction, humans who rejected Earth governance, had established bases throughout Saturn's system, with their primary stronghold on Titan. The conflict had begun as political protests but escalated to open warfare when the separatists hijacked 3 colony ships and threatened to crash them into Earth's orbital habitats. Colonel Alexander Volkov, then commander of Earth's Special Orbital Forces, had been sent to Titan with a small team to neutralize the separatist leadership before they could execute their plan. The mission was supposed to be surgical, in and out with minimal casualties. It became a slaughter. Separatist forces had been tipped off about the mission. Alexander's team was ambushed as soon as they landed, most killed in the first minutes, cut off from support, communications jammed. Alexander found himself alone behind enemy lines, with 12 hours before the colony ships would begin their death plunge toward Earth. What followed became military legend, though the official records were classified at the highest levels. One man, moving through the labyrinthine corridors of Titan Base, systematically eliminated the entire separatist command structure. By the time Earth reinforcements arrived, 78 separatists were dead, the colony ships were secured, and Alexander Volkov stood in the command center, wounded but alive, surrounded by the bodies of those who had opposed him. The soldiers who found him gave him the name that would follow him for the rest of his career: Baba Yaga, the unstoppable, implacable figure from old Earth mythology who came for those who broke the rules. The private chamber where Chancellor Vor waited was clearly designed to intimidate. The lighting was adjusted to Draxian preferences, dim by human standards with an unsettling reddish tinge. The temperature was uncomfortably warm, and the air carried scents that made Alexander's nose itch. Psychological warfare through environmental control, a basic tactic that Alexander found almost quaint. Vor towered over Alexander, his bony crest fully extended in a display of dominance. 2 growth security officers flanked the human, their massive scaled forms dwarfing him. "Ambassador Volkov," Vor began, his translator giving his words a metallic edge, "your behavior in the council chamber was unacceptable. Your accusations could be considered an act of war." Alexander met the Draxian's gaze steadily. "Fabricating evidence against Earth and abducting our ambassadors. Those are acts of war, Chancellor." Vor's upper limbs spread wide. "Bold claims from a representative of such a young species. You humans have been part of the galactic community for barely a decade. You know nothing of how the Council truly operates." "I know enough," Alexander replied. 3 Earth ambassadors disappear without a trace. Suddenly, the Council produces evidence of human violations in Draxian space. "The timing is convenient. Perhaps," Vor said, moving closer, "your predecessors discovered things they weren't meant to find. Perhaps they asked questions they shouldn't have asked. Like what happened to the Araxis civilization?" Alexander asked quietly. The effect was immediate. Vor's crest flattened against his skull, and his skin paled noticeably. "How do you know that name?" the Chancellor demanded. "Earth may be new to the Council, but we've been studying the galaxy for centuries," Alexander said. The Araxis were a developing spacefaring species from the Palvan sector, the same sector where you claim humans are violating boundaries. They were poised to join the Council 80 years ago. Then they vanished from all records. Vor regained his composure quickly. The Araxis destroyed themselves in a civil war, a tragedy, but not uncommon for young species. That's the official record, Alexander agreed. But our previous ambassadors found discrepancies, records that suggested the Araxis discovered something in their home system, something the Council wanted kept secret. Preposterous, Vor hissed. Your ambassadors disappeared because they involved themselves in criminal enterprises. Humans have demonstrated time and again their inability to adhere to galactic law. Alexander shook his head slightly. They disappeared because they were getting close to the truth. The fabricated evidence against Earth is meant to isolate us before we can discover what really happened to the Araxis and what's happening now in the Palvan sector. The Chancellor stared at Alexander for a long moment. You understand nothing, human. The Council maintains order across thousands of star systems, hundreds of species. Sometimes, sacrifices must be made for the greater good. The greater good, Alexander repeated softly. Always the excuse for atrocities. Guards, Vor said suddenly. The human ambassador seems unwell. Perhaps the station atmosphere is affecting his mind. Take him to the medical level for evaluation. Alexander recognized the threat behind the words. He would not be returning from the medical level intact, if at all. Before your guards try to move me, Chancellor, Alexander said calmly, you should know something about humans that isn't in your database. Vor's crest twitched with impatience. And what might that be? We remember our history, Alexander said. The names of those who came before us, the battles they fought, the sacrifices they made. He paused, his gray eyes locked on Vor's. Do you know what they called me during the Battle of Titan? Something in Alexander's tone made the guards hesitate. Even Vor seemed suddenly uncertain. The Battle of Titan, the Chancellor repeated. They called me Baba Yaga, Alexander said softly. The Boogeyman, the one you send to kill the monsters. Recognition flashed in Vor's eyes, a sign that even alien intelligence services had files on humanity's darkest military operations. Restrain him, Vor shouted, but it was already too late. Alexander moved with a speed that belied his age, his diplomat's appearance giving way to the warrior beneath. The nearest Groth went down before it could react, key pressure points in its scaled anatomy, targeted with surgical precision. The second guard managed to draw its weapon but found its arm locked and redirected, the energy discharge hitting the chamber's control panel instead. Alarms blared as the station's security systems registered the weapon's discharge. The lighting flickered, then stabilized at standard settings. Vor backed away, his crest flattened in fear. You cannot escape this station, human. There are thousands of security personnel. Alexander advanced on the Chancellor, moving with the controlled purpose of a predator. I don't need to escape, Chancellor. I just need answers. The Council will never allow. The Council isn't here, Alexander interrupted. It's just you and me now. And you're going to tell me what happened to Earth's ambassadors, what you did to the Araxis, and what's really happening in the Palvan sector. 3 levels above, Elena Petrov was worried. She had been placed in what amounted to a comfortable prison cell, technically diplomatic quarters, but with the door locked and communications disabled. Her security clearance was high enough to know that Alexander Volkov wasn't just a retired military commander. He was arguably the most dangerous human alive. And now he was in the custody of aliens who clearly meant humanity harm. The lights in her quarters flickered suddenly, then dimmed to emergency levels. A moment later, the door slid open. Elena tensed, expecting Draxian security. Instead, a human face peered in, one of the maintenance technicians from the Earth section of the station. Dr. Petrov, the technician whispered. Ambassador Volkov sent me. We need to move quickly. Elena blinked in surprise. How did he? No time. The technician cut her off. The station's going into security lockdown. The ambassador said to tell you Titan protocols are in effect. The phrase sent a chill down Elena's spine. Titan protocols was a code phrase for Earth's highest-level emergency response, authorized only when diplomatic solutions had failed completely. "Where is the ambassador now?" she asked, following the technician into the corridor. "Central security," the technician replied. "He's accessing the station's main database." Elena's eyes widened. How is that possible? The security there is. He had the Chancellor's access codes. The technician said grimly. Don't ask how he got them. In the central security hub of the Galactic Council station, Alexander Volkov worked rapidly at a control terminal. Behind him, Chancellor Vor sat slumped in a chair, his once proud crest now hanging limply. The Chancellor was physically unharmed, but thoroughly broken. His species' natural psychological vulnerability to direct confrontation exploited by Alexander's specialized training. "The files are encrypted," a voice said from a nearby terminal. A young human, part of the small Earth technical staff assigned to the station, was working frantically to bypass the Council's security systems. "Use the Chancellor's authentication," Alexander said without looking up from his own terminal. "It's not working. These files require inner circle clearance, all 7 elder races." Alexander turned to Vor. "Chancellor, explain." Vor's eyes remained downcast. "Some files are restricted even from individual council members. A safeguard against corruption, or a way to hide the council's darkest secrets," Alexander said. "Is there a way to bypass it?" The technician shook his head. "Not from here. We'd need physical access to the inner circle's private chamber." Alexander considered this for a moment. "Then that's where we're going." "Ambassador," the technician protested, "the entire station is on lockdown. Security forces are sweeping every level. We should focus on getting to our shuttle and escaping while we can." "Not until we have the truth," Alexander said firmly. "The Council has been working against humanity from the beginning. I need to know why." The door to the security hub slid open, and Elena hurried in with the maintenance technician who had freed her. "Ambassador," she said, relief evident in her voice. "You're all right." Alexander nodded. "For now. We've discovered evidence that the Council, or at least elements within it, has been actively sabotaging Earth's position in the galactic community." Elena glanced at the defeated form of Chancellor Vor. "Did he confirm what happened to our missing ambassadors?" "They're alive," Alexander said, his expression grim. "Being held in a secret facility in the Palvan sector, the same sector where the Araxis disappeared." "The Araxis?" Elena's eyes widened. "The lost civilization. What's the connection?" Alexander turned back to the terminal, bringing up a star chart of the Palvan sector. "The Araxis discovered something in their home system, a technology or resource that threatened the Council's control. Instead of allowing them to develop it independently, the Council orchestrated their downfall. And they're doing the same to us," Elena said, understanding dawning in her eyes. "Precisely," Alexander confirmed. "The evidence against Earth was fabricated using technology stolen from the Araxis. The Council has been setting us up from the beginning." The maintenance technician who had rescued Elena spoke up. "Ambassador, we've received a transmission from the Earth ship Horizon. They're maintaining position just outside Council space, but can't approach while the station is on lockdown." Alexander smiled slightly. "Perfect timing. Tell them to prepare for emergency extraction, but not yet. First, we need to expose the truth to the entire Council." The Inner Circle's private chamber was located at the very heart of the station, accessible only to the 7 representatives of the elder races. Under normal circumstances, no human would ever set foot inside. These were not normal circumstances. Using the station's maintenance tunnels and service corridors, mapped meticulously by Earth intelligence over years of seemingly innocent diplomatic missions, Alexander led his small team through the lockdown. 2 security patrols were neutralized quickly and efficiently, their unconscious forms hidden where they wouldn't be discovered immediately. "The chamber is just ahead," whispered the maintenance technician, consulting a handheld scanner. 2 guards at the entrance. Alexander nodded. "I'll handle them. Once we're inside, you'll have approximately 3 minutes to access the central database before additional security responds." The technician looked nervous but determined. "Understood, Ambassador." Elena touched Alexander's arm. "Are you sure this is the right course? If we leave now, we could alert Earth. Prepare for whatever the Council is planning." "We need proof," Alexander said firmly. "Otherwise, it's just our word against the entire Council. They'd isolate Earth, cut us off from allies, then move against us when we're vulnerable." Taking a deep breath, Alexander stepped around the corner and approached the chamber entrance openly. The 2 guards, both Ithrek, immediately raised their weapons. "Human," one chittered through its translator. "This area is restricted during lockdown. Return to your designated." The guard never finished the sentence. Alexander moved with practiced efficiency, his diplomat's appearance giving way to the warrior beneath. Both guards were incapacitated before they could alert others, their weapons secured, and their communication devices disabled. Using Chancellor Vor's access code, Alexander opened the chamber door. Inside was a circular room with 7 ornate chairs arranged around a central holographic projector. The walls were covered with displays showing information from across the galaxy: trade routes, conflict zones, resource allocations. Quickly, Alexander directed the technician toward the central console. "Find everything you can on the Araxis and the Palvan sector." As the technician worked, Elena studied the displays with growing horror. "Alexander," she said softly, using his first name for the first time, "look at this." One display showed a detailed invasion plan of Earth's solar system. The projected casualties were in the billions. "The date," Elena whispered. "This was scheduled to begin next month." Alexander's face hardened. "Find out why," he instructed the technician. "What triggered this?" The technician's fingers flew over the alien interface. "I've got something. It's about element X-137, the new element discovered in our Kuiper Belt mining operation last year." Elena asked. The technician nodded. "According to this, X-137 is the same element the Araxis discovered. The Council classifies it as restricted technology. Apparently, it can be used to create a form of faster-than-light communication that can't be monitored or controlled by existing Council systems. Instantaneous, untraceable communication across the galaxy," Alexander said thoughtfully. "That would undermine the Council's control completely." "Ambassador," the technician said urgently, "I found files on our missing diplomats. They're being held at a facility called Darkwatch in the Palvan sector. The facility it's a research center where they're experimenting on representatives from species the Council considers threats." Alexander's expression darkened. "Download everything. We're taking this to the full Council and to every species represented on this station." As the technician worked to extract the data, the chamber door suddenly slid open. In the doorway stood all 7 members of the inner circle, surrounded by armed guards. "This intrusion confirms everything we suspected about humans," said the Chelb representative, its gelatinous form pulsing with anger. "Violent, unpredictable, dangerous." Alexander stepped forward, positioning himself between the Council members and his team. "We've seen your plans," he said coldly. "Your scheduled invasion of Earth. Your secret facility where you experiment on diplomats who discover your crimes. Your suppression of the Araxis." A ripple of unease passed through several of the Council members. "What is he talking about?" asked the Vrel representative, its containment suit glowing a confused yellow. "Lies," Vor said quickly, having apparently recovered some of his composure. "Human deception." "The evidence is right here," Alexander said, gesturing to the displays. "Not just your crimes against humanity, but against countless species. How many civilizations have you destroyed because they discovered something that threatened your control? How many species have you manipulated, divided, conquered? The Vrel representative moved closer to the displays, studying them carefully. These plans, these facilities. I had no knowledge of this. Nor did I, said another council member, a crystalline entity that communicated through light patterns. This violates our most sacred principles. Vor's crest flattened in anger. The maintenance of galactic order requires difficult decisions. The Draxian Imperium has shouldered burdens that others were too weak to bear. You've been operating the Shadow Council, Alexander said, understanding dawning. Not all the elder races were involved, just those who stood to benefit from maintaining control. The chamber erupted in accusations and denials as the council members confronted one another. In the confusion, Alexander turned to his team. It's done, the technician confirmed quietly. The data is secured and transmitted to the horizon. Good, Alexander said. Now we need to get out of here before they remember we're the enemy. 2 days later, Alexander Volkov stood on the bridge of the Earth ship horizon, watching as the massive council station receded in the view screen. Beside him, Elena studied reports coming in from across council space. It's chaos out there, she said. 3 of the elder races have withdrawn from the council. The evidence we exposed has triggered investigations, protests, diplomatic recalls. And our ambassadors? Alexander asked. A joint rescue mission is being organized. Now that we know where they're being held, the Vrel and the crystalline Tesh have offered their assistance. Alexander nodded, satisfied. And the element X-137. Elena smiled slightly. Earth has proposed an open research initiative, inviting representatives from all species to participate in studying its properties, a gesture of good faith. A strategic move, Alexander corrected. Better to lead the research than try to keep it secret. The ship's captain approached, offering a secure communication device. Ambassador, the United Earth government is requesting your report. Alexander took the device but didn't immediately activate it. The galaxy will be different after this, he said quietly to Elena. The Council's monopoly on power is broken. New alliances will form. Old grudges will resurface. Dangerous times, Elena agreed, but also full of opportunity. Alexander replied. Humanity won't be dismissed so easily again. As the horizon accelerated toward the jump point that would take them back to Earth, the legend of the Baba Yaga spread throughout Council space. The human diplomat who had exposed corruption at the highest levels of galactic governance, who had fought the most powerful beings in the galaxy and won. You know they'll fear us now, Elena said, watching distant stars streak past the view screen. Alexander's expression remained composed. Fear isn't what we need. Respect is. And if respect fails? The ambassador's eyes hardened momentarily, a glimpse of the Baba Yaga beneath the diplomatic exterior. Then they'll remember what happens when you corner a human. The ship jumped to FTL, leaving behind a galactic community forever changed by humanity's reluctant warrior diplomat and the Council's failure to recognize who they had mocked until it was too late.